Are aliens from other planets visiting our country? Are they visiting our world? Do we have evidence of that? What's Area 51 all about? You might think I have nothing to say about the subject. You might check some of the very, very successful YouTube channels, those that do not get shadow banned to hell, as this one does. Because in this world, you need to actually word of mouth spread around my kind of videos. Otherwise, they do not get promoted. You need to actually network them. Let me tell you a little about myself, for those of you who haven't watched all my videos yet. I came about yay close to being buried in Area 51. Yes, I have been in Area 51. I came about yay close to ending up on the sex offender registry in America. I know, I'm not going to get sidetracked by that right now, because I specifically don't want to deal with the people for whom that's all they think about is sex. So, that can come up another time, not now. I came this close to being tortured to death as an American Orthodox rabbi, American and Israeli Orthodox rabbi, getting by ISIS. I came this close to being turned over to the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. ISIS, Daesh, Ishid, different languages, all the same thing, being burned alive by them for public consumption. And I tell you, as somebody who has investigated to the ends of the earth everything interesting, everything I find interesting, everything I talk about, I know of what I speak. And if I tell you that the Bible is the most important ancient mystery, unsolved mystery, you should believe me. I'm not some preacher who's just sharing some information he decided he's making a living on. You might think the 10 Commandments of the Bible that we're doing this series, up to number 8. You might think the 10 Commandments, who cares what they are necessarily, unless you're religious. If you're religious, I guess you have to know, whatever. You might think you can just look them up. Everybody, they're putting them all over the place. Go to any church, any synagogue, and you can learn what they are. Go to the library, look online. Not the case. Not the case. The most important, critical, ancient document in human history is the 5 books of Moses, the Torah. There is an unbroken chain of tradition of understanding the Torah that goes back to its creation. And what I have to say about it comes with a lot to compare it with. Number 8, lo tignov, don't rob. Easy, don't rob. Right? Just don't steal. Okay, is taxation theft? Is capitalism theft? Is communism theft? How do you define theft? What is property rights? What does the Torah have to say about property rights? There's a lot here. And of course, ancient Jewish tradition has it that primarily this statement, do not steal, do not rob, isn't even talking about things. It's not even talking about property. That's included. But it's primarily talking about people. Don't rob a person. Don't steal and enslave an individual. Well, we don't have slavery, not a problem today. Really? Nonsense. Nonsense. Practically all of capitalism is slavery by the Torah's definition. The Torah's slavery, when it uses the word eved, servant or slave, it's really basically employee. Forced employment. You have to do it if you want to stay alive. The master has to give you his best pillow, according to Jewish law. If he's only got one good pillow, he's got to give it to his slave. Doesn't sound like anything we in English think about when we talk about slavery. It sounds like you have an employee that you're responsible to. And if this employee wants to stick around beyond his official term of slavery, of employment, but again, the word's eved, usually translated as slave, let's go with that. Then it's his choice up until the Yovel, up until the Jubilee year, which is next year, when everything starts again, the true reset, the biblical reset, not Justin Trudeau's reset. If you need to work just to stay alive and get by, to be able to get married and feed your kids, well, you're in some kind of enforced employment, aren't you? And if you hire other people under these conditions as well, you're kind of enslaving someone. It's not your fault. Our whole system is built this way. I'm trying to do my way of surviving within the capitalistic world as best as possible. I think it's pretty easy. Anybody, unless they're hungry, and if they are hungry, then they can become members of Yedidya for free on Substack. That's what we're doing here. And otherwise, anybody can afford $36. Ideally, nobody gives more, nobody gives less. That's what it is. I'm trying to do capitalism as kosher as possible. It's still not completely kosher. Nothing can be. In our world, as we spoke about in this earlier Ten Commandments series, in our world, there should be nobody who requires enslaving themselves for more than an hour a week in order to get by. If you want to enslave yourself further, it's not slavery. But in order to eat, have shelter, take care of those closest to you, we understand nature by now well enough that just to get food, shelter, clothing, a phone, which is now necessary, unfortunately, a car, which in many places is necessary, we shouldn't be making ourselves more, addicted. We shouldn't be making ourselves addicted to additional things. That's how it always works. Epictetus, the ancient Greek Stoic scholar, sage, made it very clear, as did many others of his type, but he left us great writings, that everything that he utilizes is his to utilize. None of it owns him. For most of us, well, we feel kind of owned by our car payments, house payments, bills, phone payments, etc. Not great. But we understand nature well enough today that even for these things that we are currently required, that we need, there's no reason at all that anybody should require doing that just to stay alive. We are messing up. And there's no time. You know there's no time. You know there's no time. The Israel thing, it's not going away that quick unless we solve it. I can solve it. Maybe. I can give the best chance that anyone's got of solving it. The Ukraine business, you understand there's all kinds of nuclear weapons. Do you know what's going on in India between the Christians and the Hindus and the Muslims, and that both Pakistan and India have nuclear bombs? It's not just nuclear either. We're at the end of the line. And there's so little I can do without a following. I decided to finally come out and be public because my life was, as well, 3 examples I gave you at the start of this video, my life was becoming greatly endangered. Because every once in a while, I would run into someone who was not a good person. And by that, I mean like possibly incorrigibly bad. And without a public following, without knowing that I'll have an opportunity to speak to the world, my life was in great danger. It still is, because I still don't have that following. And therefore, for example, you might know about Francisco, if you watch these videos, the hero who was shot in the belly in the course of saving someone else from getting shot right in the face. I just spoke to the fellow who was almost shot in the face, just right now, right before making this video, right before turning on this camera. And I can't really tell you anything. You know why? Because I'm living here in this neighborhood and I would end up getting killed. I'm saying based on I know for an absolute fact. I can't really do anything about it. I don't have the wherewithal to live somewhere else, and I don't have the following to be able to do anything about it. I could do something about it. I can even save this guy who right now is running for his life, who may have killed people since. He doesn't have resources. He may have killed people since then. He likely will kill somebody again if he's not caught. If he is caught, it's not necessarily the right way. Our American system doesn't work correctly, doesn't work well. It's not just to anybody in any which way. I could very likely help him as well. He would end up going to jail for a while, etc., but I could very likely help him too. And through this system, through making public everything that I'm doing in that regard, really help make America in general a much safer place. But I can't. It's literally impossible. Because I don't have the following. Lo tignov, do not steal a person. Here too, I went to the ends of the earth, so I know of what I speak. You can watch the preamble where I introduce you to the person who is sponsoring this series on the Ten Commandments. And I tell you how I met him. You can get the full story of the situation where I saved a man's life whom nobody else was going to save. And I know that because I didn't think it was up to me to save him. I thought my job was just prayer and good deeds and whatever else. I really thought that was it. I was a 20-year-old kid with no connections on earth. And I ended up rescuing a guy who was being tortured to death in Chechnya, in the Islamic Republic of Chechnya at that time, 1997 actually. He had his fingers cut off, his teeth pulled out. In theory, the whole world, and certainly the whole Jewish world, cared a great deal about him. We're all brothers and sisters, right? All the Jews? At the very least, all the Jews. Ideally, all people. At the very least, all the Jews. I spoke to the leaders, the religious leaders of all the Jews. I don't just mean the two chief rabbis. I mean the actual leaders of ultra-Orthodox Jewry. The actual ones. If you're not an ultra-Orthodox Jew, the names mean nothing to you. The very first commandment, Anochi Yehovah Elohecha asher hotzesicha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeis havadim. I am Yehovah, your Elohim, your decider, who has freed you from the land of Egypt, who took you out from the land of Egypt, from the house of the slaves. Also, Bereshis bara Elohim es hashamayim ves haaretz. Who is God? The one who created heaven and earth. Heaven isn't a physical. It means everything. That's how you cover everything, heaven and earth. He's the one who created you. Your life was given to you. If fear is a motivating factor for you, then you are enslaved. It's just that simple. No point going further in this right now. Just letting you know that in the Ten Commandments, lo tignov, do not rob. It means don't rob a person of their freedom, of their ability to actually live as an Elohim, right? People are made B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. An often misunderstood concept. Can't get into it right now because it takes too long to explain. But you are basically taking away godhood from a person. By killing them, you certainly are. And by forcing them to do something just to get their very basic existence, you're doing it too. It might not be so bad you're doing it to everyone else because you're probably doing it to yourself as well. Lo tignov. Don't rob.